Hey, today I'm going to be reading from this book. It's essentially about just the history of alcohol and civilization. So, my voice is a little raspy today. I'm not sure if that will hurt or help. It's kind of ASMR timbre, I guess. But, I guess there's only one way to find out. I'm going to be reading from a chapter titled West, which I assume is about, well, it does seem that it's about Western North America and the alcohol consumption and industry there. Notwithstanding the lusty drinking that went on during American elections, they were models of restraint and probity in comparison to the democratic process in Mexico. In 1821, America's southern neighbor had followed in its throwing of the colonial yoke, but rather than organizing itself as a republic, had chosen to be headed by an emperor. Constitutional imperial rule was rejected in favor of a dictatorship 2 years later, the first of many changes in government that were to enliven Mexican politics for the rest of the century. "25 years after its declaration of independence, a traveling English mercenary estimated that the country had had 237 revolutions over the same time period. Excitement in the political sphere was counterbalanced by stability in drinking habits. In order to protect its exports, Spain had maintained severe restrictions on the production of wine and spirits. In Mexico, almost to the end of its rule, with the consequences that most wine was imported and most spirits were moonshine. The principal legal drink in Mexico, in terms of volume consumed, was Pulque, a favorite moon juice of 2 rabbits. It was still prepared in a more or less Aztec manner. Still spoiled quickly, and its consumption is concentrated in towns. It had come to be perceived as a type of food, in particular for pregnant women who were exhorted always to drink at least 2 cups, one for themselves and one for the child inside them. Pulque was also provided to nursing infants. It's crazy. In the belief that it nourished and strengthened them. This new role had diminished its reputation as an intoxicant, and it had become a beverage that anyone of every age might enjoy at any time. It was half a page. Those Mexicans wishing to become their rabbits now drank Mescal, i.e. distilled pulque. This was the most common alcoholic beverage in mining communities, and also on the country's vast ranches, and in the little villages that grew up to serve them. The rancheros produced mescal for much the same reasons as Kentucky settlers had made whiskey. Distillation concentrated their harvest, extended its life, and rendered it transportable. They took pride in their stills and competed in the quality of their product, to which they attributed medicinal as well as organoleptic properties. Mescal was considered good for everything bad and for everything good as well. The production of this panacea was concentrated in Jalisco, which had become official part of independent Mexico in 1829. Jalisco was home to the first licensed Mescal distillery in the Americas, founded by Jose Antonio Cuervo, who had received permission from the Spanish crown to distill Mescal wine in 1795. Its products and those of the multitude of other stills that sprang up in post-independence were drunk principally by men. Mescal was used for ceremonial as well as recreational purposes. The Mexicans had kept many of their pre-Columbian festivals alive in the guise of Christian fiestas, the most important of which were Los Días de Muertos, the Days of the Dead, staged under the cover of the Catholic festivals of All Souls and All Saints. The dead were assumed to return to the world of the living for the duration of Los Días de Muertos, and were supplied with offerings of food and drink. Spirits were the most popular libations, and their tendency to evaporate when left out in a glass was interpreted as proof that the departed had taken a sip. Notwithstanding the general limitations Spain had imposed upon the production of wine in its colonies, the religious institutions it founded in Mexico had been permitted to plant vineyards so as to ensure a supply of wine for the altar. These introduced the grape to the country's largest and emptiest province, California. Spanish California was a sleepy kind of place. While it had been explored in the 16th century and named after an island in a romantic tale, the Spanish had only begun to colonize in the 18th century, and even then, in a dilatory manner. Settlement had proceeded via a string of military strongholds, or presidios, usually coupled with a Franciscan mission. The first of the latter was founded in 1769 at San Diego, followed by, traveling northward, San Juan Capistrano, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Monterey, and in 1776, San Francisco. San Juan Capistrano, in what is now Orange County, was the first Californian mission to make wine. The man responsible for tending its vines was a young friar named Pablo de Mugartegui. The vines under his care had been delivered by sea in 1779 aboard the San Antonio under Don Jose Camacho. The first vintage produced at the mission was probably the 1782, for in 1781 Fra Junipero Serra, the supervisor of the Californian mission chain, had written to it expressing the pious hope that your vines will survive and bear fruit, as the lack of wine for the mass is becoming unbearable, thus implying no grapes had been harvested that fall. By 1783, however, Fra Sirah's prayers had been answered. Riding from the mission at San Gabriel, once again to regret a dearth of communion wine, he revealed that the shortage had resulted from an accident when a barrel was being brought here from San Juan Capistrano. It fell off the mule, broke into pieces, and all the wine was lost. There was, however, sufficient wine from the same source at neighboring missions to avert a crisis. That probably will do it for me reading this. I've been going so slow that I've only read two and a half pages of this. And I don't think I'm going to get to any better stopping point than that. If this format was at all tingle-worthy, then just let me know in the comments or however, and maybe I can do another one like that.